Hello everybody, Maven here, and I've been doing daily uploads this week, but I took a day off when the new Sundered Doctrine Dungeon came out, and I said I would be back the following day, but I just had to take an extra day off because I got my hands on the new exotic linear fusion, the FINALITY'S AUGER, and I just had to take another day off to build crap with this thing because it was so insane, I just could not pass it up. So we are here, we are back, and I have made a build today meant to abuse the new exotic linear fusion. And this build contains the Starfire Protocol. Yes, the ugly bathrobes are back, and I'm sorry to tell you that they are really, really good. I hate to have to use this exotic again because it's one of the most ugly exotics in the entire game, but I'm sorry to say it's good with this new FINALITY'S AUGER. So let's break it down and let me show you what it's capable of. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. All right, let's do this. So let's read the FINALITY'S AUGER. So you can hold reload and then consume 3 ammo to fire a rune scribe turret. It's best if you aim it in the sky so that it has clear line of sight of all targets, and it'll just start randomly shooting adds around the area. However, you can make your turret focus on a target and do more damage by using Rune Scribe's Beacon. So while your turret is currently deployed somewhere, you can then shoot a laser at a target to basically mark them, so your turret will shoot volleys of rockets at them and do more damage to a single target. So I'll show you what I mean here against Carl. So for this first test, I'm just going to throw out my turret and I'm not going to mark Carl. And you can see that it's just chunking him for 13k at a time. And if there were adds all around the area here, it would just start randomly shooting from ad to ad. Nothing in particular, it just shoots all over the place. The turret lingers there for 25 seconds. And while a turret is currently out, you cannot place another one until that one is gone. But if you did want to place another turret somewhere else, you can actually destroy your other turret, so you can place another one. So the amount of damage we did to Carl here without marking him as a target was just over a third of his health, which is pretty good. That's more than a rocket does, but spread out all around the battlefield. And you can see that after I did 3 shots of the linear mode just to compare the damage, and it did a lot less than the turret mode. So you get more damage out of the 3 ammo that you spend on a turret rather than the linear shots. Now let's see that test again, but this time when I shoot at my turret, I can then shoot a little painting laser to basically highlight Carl as a target. And you can see that now it's shooting down volleys of rockets at him, and it does significantly more damage than when you don't paint a target, except it won't ad clear, it won't shoot targets around the arena, it'll only shoot volleys at the target that you mark. But if that target were to die, then it'll go back to its normal function of just shooting randomly around the area. However, I should mention that your marked target will become unmarked after a certain amount of time. I think it's like around 15-ish seconds. Don't quote me on that, but that's why throughout this clip you see me continuously repainting Carl as a target. And the amount of damage we do to Carl here is about 99% of his health. He was extremely close to dying. So the amount of damage you get out of the cost of 3 heavy ammo is very, very significant. It's similar to Anarchy. Anarchy does more, but this one has the added benefit of, ad clearing and also having that linear mode for extra DPS. Now, just to put into perspective of how much damage that did, I did a little test here for a different video that you'll see later, spoiler, where I shoot Carl with Dragon's Breath, and then I also swapped to Galley afterwards, shot him with Galley, and it didn't do even as much as the turret alone on the FINALITY'S AUGER. So the FINALITY'S AUGER is pretty dang strong. Now, if you want to see how much damage the FINALITY'S AUGER does in like a raid boss DPS setting, I'd like to point you in the direction of Asdacross's video he did on this called FINALITY'S AUGER is Insane, and there he does some Templar damage testing, and all the information you need to know about raid boss DPS with this thing is in that video, so go and check it out if you wanted to know. But basically, the TLDR, but first the preface to that is that this thing's catalyst is going to give it bait and switch. Now, when you get the catalyst, this thing actually does the most DPS in the game other than Lord of Wolves, which will probably get nerfed and is only a close range option, but for any mid to long range boss, the FINALITY'S AUGER is the king of DPS once we get the catalyst. For now, it's still the Queen Breaker, but with the catalyst, FINALITY'S AUGER is king. So this is 100% a weapon that every sweaty Destiny player should want and should get. Now, when it comes to build crafting, a general gameplay build with this thing It's pretty tough to do since the weapon has no subclass synergy whatsoever. It has no keywords on it. So the next thing you gotta do is think about which exotic armor pieces synergize with linear fusion rifles, but there are none. So what next? You gotta pick apart what the weapon does that's unique. So I thought about the fact that you can sit behind cover safely while this thing does damage for you. And one thing that came to mind was a good old weave walk combo we used to do with Osteo, Striga, and Witherhorde, which is still doable and still very, very strong and underrated in my opinion. But you can set up the turret. The damage counts as a weapon damage source, so you can enter Weave Walk, and as the turret hits your target, it will disperse your perched threadlings, but only one at a time per volley, so it's not as efficient as I expected it to be, so therefore this was kind of off the table. It was a neat idea, it was a neat concept, but it's just not dangerous enough. I need more danger. So next I had to think about what exotic would benefit from free damage from a weapon damage source. And that's when I thought about the Starfire Protocol. The ugly bathrobes are back, and I am not about to pay $6 for an ornament on this thing, so I just gotta live with it. So it has the perk Fusion Harness. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage, with empowered weapon final blows granting more energy. Defeating targets with fusion grenades grants Rift energy. Now it states here that empowered weapon damage grants fusion grenade energy, and the turret from the Finality's Auger counts as a weapon damage source. So what we can do here against Carl is set up our turret, set up an empowering rift. I'm going to toss away my nades so you can see how much nade energy I get. I can chill in my rift while my turret shoots him, while I shoot him with another weapon like my primary, and I just get fed a bunch of grenade energy. And you can see that I get an entire fusion charge back in just a few seconds. And if it's like high-end difficult content, you don't even have to peek out. You can just set up a turret, go behind cover, set up a rift, and just chill there. And your turret is also getting buffed by your empowering rift because again, it's a weapon damage source, and you're just fed a bunch of grenade energy. You can peek out, toss a nade, go back into cover, chill there, and just rinse and repeat. Now watch this next clip here where I actually use my fusion nades on Carl, and he gets absolutely schmelted because those touch of flame boosted fusion grenades with those second explosions and solar ignitions, and Hellion on top of that to get more solar ignitions, the damage is just ridiculous, especially with the DOT of your turret. And also pay close attention to all my ability cooldowns after the fact, because the ability spam on all three of our abilities on this build is absolutely insane, and I'll break that down right now. So what's charging our nades? Obviously Starfire Protocol, duh, but then there's also Ember of Searing, which is creating fire sprites that grant grenade energy when we pick them up, and Ember of Searing is also giving us a bunch of melee energy whenever we defeat scorched targets. And between our nades and our Hellion, pretty much everything is scorched. And then Ember of Singeing is what's feeding us class ability energy, because again, everything gets scorched, everything proc Singeing gives us rift energy, but then also the Starfire Protocol fully refunds a rift charge when you get a fusion grenade kill, and that's why I'm placing a ton of rifts everywhere in the background gameplay. But one more thing that's really feeding into our grenade energy here is our glaive that we're using, the forthcoming deviants from Salvation's Edge, and I have enhanced demolitionist and enhanced destabilizing rounds. I did have chain reaction originally, but destabilizing rounds just got a huge buff this season, so now it's insane. And demolitionist, the way it works along with perks like pugilist and strategist, is on a primary weapon. When you get a final blow, they grant 10% ability energy, 11% if enhanced. But on certain specials, specifically fusion rifles, shotgun snipers, and glaives, those four weapon types, if they have demolitionist, pugilist, or strategist, final blows grant 20% ability energy, 22% if enhanced. So since this is a glaive, I get 22% grenade energy back on final blows. But remember that line of text on the Starfire Protocol that says weapon final blows grant more energy? On final blows, you get literally 20% of your grenade energy back, and you stack that on top of the 22% from the forthcoming deviants, and the amount of energy you get back is absolutely absurd. So let me show you an example of that I did in Breakneck, and I took off Hellion and I took off destabilizing rounds for the sake of the test, so you can see just the grenade energy alone. And I'm going to throw away my nades, place a rift, and you can see that my nade spam is just absolutely through the roof. Like, it's literally infinite nades as long as you're getting those glaive projectile kills, which is extremely easy to do. And then remember, grenade final blows fully restore your rift charge, so you can just go and drop rifts everywhere, and this would be giving you infinite Hellion. giving you infinite activations of Reaper on your class item so you can just get more weapon kills to make more orbs. So the grenade spam and the rift spam is quite literally just infinite on this build. And while you're doing any kind of encounter, like, you know, a raid encounter, strike encounter, gambit encounter, doesn't matter, you're probably going to set up a rune scribe turret from your Finality's Auger, and while you're sitting in your empowering rift, that turret is also pecking ads around the area, feeding you more grenade energy as well. And another reason that it's a great idea to use a glaive with this build is because obviously empowering rifts don't heal you, and we don't have healing grenades. We need all the survivability we can get. And the fact that you can set up a rift and just chill with your glaive shield up and just block all the damage and just keep tapping things with your glaive projectile, you can survive in your empowering rift while your Hellion and your rune scribe turret and your glaive projectiles just peck away at everything in front of you, and you're just immortal because glaives give like 99% DR. But of course, we're also going to have more ways to survive with our subclass fragments. So remember how Ember of Searing creates a fire sprite whenever you defeat a scorched target? There's fire sprites everywhere because of Hellion. And when we pick up these fire sprites, they're proccing Ember of Mercy. This says picking up a fire sprite grants restoration. So typically I'll throw a nade at something, I'll go to where that thing died, I'll pick up the fire sprite, and that'll give me some time to set up my rift while taking damage because I'll have that restoration procced, and then I can whip out my glaive and start shooting things with my glaive shield up. And finally, we have Ember of Resolve. This says solar grenade, final blows cure you. Since it's a grenade spam build, obviously gotta have this one. Now here's one dilemma we gotta talk about. If you're making a build based around a special weapon, that's possible because we have special finisher on our class item, so we can have builds that literally have infinite special ammo. But what happens when our build is based around a heavy ammo? Because, you know, on a solo build, there's no true way to actually have infinite heavy unless you're using a Lethanim. Well, when I hover over my two other weapons here, do you see something that catches your eye? They both have on the Heavy Ammo Finder enhancement, which grants increased Heavy Ammo Finder progress with this weapon's final blows. Now, typically, it'll take like, 30 final blows to spawn a Heavy Finder brick on a non-exotic primary, but you can put this mod onto legendary primaries and some specials, and that makes it so it only takes 15 final blows to spawn a Finder brick, because bricks, if you didn't know, they are not chance systems, they are progress bar systems. The progress bar is invisible, which is something I hope Bungie fixes in the future for quality of life. But yeah, only 15 final blows like between these two weapons, and that will spawn a heavy brick. But we have triple heavy finders, so basically when a brick spawns, it won't be like the amount of ammo you get from a finder brick, like literally one shot. It'll be the equivalent of a real heavy ammo brick. So between these three mods, these two mods, along with double solar reserves on our chest, we can try to make it so we can spam our heavy. It's not going to be perfectly spammable. There's going to be errors with it. It's not going to happen every time, but we can actually have this set up to kind of remedy the situation at hand. Now, the weird thing about solar reserves with the Finality's Auger is that diminishing returns actually work in the opposite direction here. Typically, when you run more reserve mods, they will diminish the more mods you got. But for example, the Finality's Auger at base holds 23 ammo, and with one reserve it holds 24 ammo, and with two reserves it holds 26 ammo, so it jumps up one, so it doesn't actually diminish, it grants it even further. But 26 is the max, so triple reserves will do nothing. But if you didn't want to run reserves, that's perfectly fine. You can just run resist if you want. So while we're here, let's break down the rest of our mods. So the other main theme is obviously going to be special finisher, because since our main weapon is a glaive, we want infinite special, so we're just going to have to get armor charged, and we have three ways to do that. That is going to be with Reaper on the class item. Since we're spamming rifts every time we get a grenade final blow, it's going to make it so Reaper is procced a lot of the time and going to make orbs on weapon final blows. And then we have firepower on our gloves, so we can make orbs on grenade final blows. And then finally we have elemental charge on our boots, which gives us a chance to get armor charge whenever we collect an elemental pickup, such as a fire sprite, which we're making a ton of because of Hellion. So those are the ways we were able to spam special finisher. And then we also got powerful attraction to scoop up orbs around us whenever we place a rift, making it even easier to collect that armor charge. And when we pick up those orbs, they are also proccing absolution and recuperation on our boots for some health back and some ability energy for all three of our cooldowns. However, if you didn't care about those cooldowns, you can run solar scavenger to build more into the heavy spam setup. And then I just got 1 random resist on my chest. You can swap this out to whatever the threat modifier happens to be. And then on my gloves, I got impact induction and momentum transfer. So when I get a hit with my melee, I get grenade energy. When I get a hit with my grenade, I get melee energy. So they just feed into each other, meanwhile procking Ember of singeing and searing. And for the stat distribution, obviously prioritize double hundreds in resilience and discipline and get as much recovery as you can. But I also invested a little bit of strength as well, because the snap melee is really good. It causes ignitions and it procs Scorch, procs our perks and whatnot, so it's pretty good to invest a little bit of strength too. Now I guess the final thing to talk about is why I'm using the accrued redemption as my primary. It's because I wanted something long range that was, out of glaive range to use as a primary, that I knew did really good consistent damage and also helped to proc the empowered weapon damage on the Starfire Protocol. So I wanted something with kinetic tremors, I wanted something that hit hard, and the accrued redemption with enhanced kinetic tremors worked perfectly because you can proc tremors in just 2 bow hits, which is actually insane. Very, very underrated primary, one of the best in the game, but nobody uses it. More people need to use this weapon. But you could also use something like a Hung Jury with kinetic tremors or the Blast Furnace or something like that. But your primary really doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want, something to stun a champion. You can use a hand cannon like Fatebringer or Midnight Coup. You can use an auto rifle like Chroma Rush or Multi-Mach with Attrition Orbs, kinetic tremors. Just use whatever. So that about does it for the build. Starfire Protocol is unfortunately back on the menu. I know it is an arc-based season and a void-based season, but especially when Solar comes back around, I'm expecting to see more Starfire Protocol because this is actually pretty dang good, I have to admit. Those fusion grenades with Touch of Flame, they never fail to impress. They are insanely powerful. Now, obviously, it's kind of a stretch calling this like a build-around build for the Finality's Auger. Obviously, this is a weapon that doesn't have any synergy whatsoever with anything, so you can kind of just use it on any class, any character, Hunter, Titan, doesn't matter. You can use it on Speaker's Sight, but I was just trying to min-max with it here and get the most out of it that I could because it's a new weapon. I wanted to show it some love and build something around it, so that's what I got for you. So as always, if you wanted to try it out, the dim loadout link will be down below in the description and also the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. And if you got any buddies who are Warlock mains, I'd appreciate if you consider sharing the video with them. Perhaps maybe this is something they might want to try out. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and let me know what you think about the build down below in the comments and if there's anything you would change about it. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here for more episode Heresy content on the way. Got a lot of more builds in the works ready to go. So hope you stick around for more. And remember to check out our sponsor, Advanced GG, code Maven at checkout for 10% off your order. Link down below, and I will catch you in the next video. See you later.